So you're unhappy with your current parenting time order. Okay, so you've been divorced and you have children, and you've either negotiated a final custody parenting plan or you were ordered to a custody parenting plan after a trial. But you're not happy. And you're not happy because you miss your kids. You want to see your kids more. What do you do? Okay? The first thing that I suggest that you do is start keeping track, real sharp track, with a pen and a paper or an email or a calendar or whatever you have to use, right, of your time and your contact with the children. The second thing to do is, if you have the ability to speak to your spouse, and if you are still speaking to your spouse, tell your spouse, do not talk to the children. Let me say it again. Do not talk to the children and say, I miss you, daddy misses you, mommy misses you, but I can't see you anymore because there's a court order that says I can only have you on every other weekend. Don't do that. Don't bring the kids in. Don't do anything with the kids. First up, document what it is that you're currently having. Second, go to your spouse. Okay, let's assume your spouse is talking to you. Maybe you can say, hey, can I get an extra night? Can I get an extra hour? Can I get an extra dinner? Okay, now, what if you and your spouse don't even speak to each other? Or if you have a restraining order against each other, then you can't do that. You can't talk to your spouse. At that point, you may want to retain the services of an attorney, an experienced attorney. But don't just pay a lawyer and fire off a letter and expect you're going to get your kids. Go through with your attorney the specifics. Who, what, where, when, and why do you need to have more time with your children? Are you doing it because you don't like the child support number and you want more overnights? Or are you doing it for legitimate reasons to co-parent that child or children and you don't have them as much as you want? Okay? Sometimes you're going to be in a position where you're going to need to bring in a therapist to evaluate the children. If you, in your opinion, and your lawyer sit down and decide that, you know what, I have the availability to be home at 12 o'clock every day. Why am I home and my child comes home at 2, my spouse doesn't come home until 5, and she's got to, or he or she's got to be in daycare for 3 hours when I'm available? But your agreement doesn't allow you to. And your spouse tells you basically, go away, I'm not going to give you the extra time. All right, well, in that situation, you may want to put it in writing to an email to your spouse first, and or if you can't, go right to the lawyer, and then you can speak with your lawyer and you can send a letter that says, hey, here's a reasonable resolution of increasing my time, and here's the reasons why I want to, and therefore I want to talk to you about it. If your spouse still says no, you may end up in front of a judge. So the question is, how do I change my parenting time? First, start with the data. Document everything. Second, go to your spouse. If you can't go to your spouse, you may have to go to a judge. Either way, on these issues, do not talk to the child. Do not say to the child things that you know are going to go back to the spouse. For example, I would see you more, but I can't because your mom or dad says I can't. Don't put stuff like that in the kid's mind. Don't say anything negative at all, even if you want to. Just don't do it. You'll see how it affects that child negatively by giving that child pressure and putting them in the middle of the situation with you and your spouse. Get an experienced attorney. Ask the attorney, what do they think? Okay? We're not shy as lawyers. We can give you an opinion on what we think, whether or not it's reasonable. That's my litmus test, always. I'm not a judge. I'm not a magician. I can only apply the law that I know to the facts of your case, and then I can make a best guess and an estimation, right? But it's always based on what's reasonable. So my stockbroker that gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go into Manhattan, who says he wants to drop the children off in the morning, is unreasonable because he can't do it. My CEO woman client who works till 7 o'clock at night, not reasonable to think she's going to be there to be picking the children up from the after school. And having a nanny come pick the children up is different than having the parent come pick the children up. So be real straight, get an attorney who's experienced, who can analyze these things for you, and then put together an action plan. And by all means, get as much time with your children as you can. You have no idea how important it is to spend time with those kids, especially when the family has gone through a divorce.